Hello everyone. Thanks for coming. I spent a lot of time in the last 9 months looking at the visual impact and just trying to figure out the size of the project and what to expect. And we've had a lot of communication with Richard Morman. We've talked to Petrolium Affairs Division. We've talked to nearly everybody that talked to us. And we're starting to get a grip on what's coming. So what we're being told, which is there's a lot of information out there that sounds very different, but there's a lot of mixed messages. What we're being told is that we can expect between 3,000 and 9,000 wells. That's just some of the communication that I have with Richard Morman that kind of goes into what we're going to see. So that this is a Google Earth image of what we can expect. So that the red circle is the initial area where they're going to start. So you can expect to see 3,000 wells in that circle. And that's 120 pads. That's both sides of the border. You can see Leitrim, and you can see where Calvin is. And you can see Sligo here. It comes into South Sligo and North Roscommon. So the circle there, Manorhamilton is just here. And Kiltyclare is in the centre there, so you're into Shale. Glenfarne is here. So this is all Rosinver. Loch McNee is in there under that cloud. So in that area, what we're promised is we're promised 3,000 wells and 120 pads split both sides of the border. Now the 9,000 wells is this area here. So that is all the way into Roscommon. I was a bit shocked. That's coming very lately now from Richard Morman. And I have maps to back that up, and I've measured that, and it's exactly 280,000 acres, which is what he's promised. So we're going to have 3,000 wells in 80,000 acres in the red circle, and 9,000 wells in the larger area. Now, all the figures that are being produced at the moment from Tamboran are in the red circle. Now, what he's talking about is 24 wells on a pad, and a pad is 7 acres, and there are just less. One pad will drain an area of 1 square mile. So that's how many pads it'll take based on that scenario. There may be different scenarios. You can have longer wells and different things, but this is what he's promoting at the moment. So we have to expect it in this area first, but once he says that if the geology suits, that this is the area. And remember, this is the area that the Petrolium Affairs Division are interested in as well. And this is a pad. So you can see it's very heavily industrialised. This is your derrick. Now this particular pad, there's fracking going on over here, as well as drilling. Now this is a 14 well pad. Remember, we're going to get 24 well pads. So we're going to have 24 wells to drain 1 square mile. Now when Tamboran came to Leitrim County Council last September, this is what they showed them as a pad. I think that people still think this is a pad. This is just 1 well. Now this is, we couldn't find pictures anywhere of what a well, what a pad would look like with more than 4 or 5 wells. So Richard Morman sent us this. This has 16 wells, and we're going to have 24 wells. But you can see just the difference. So this is, every one of those squares is a square mile. And that's a pad, 7 acres. And these drills, you're looking at them on plan, you're looking at them from the sky. They'll first of all go down into the shale and then drill out horizontally. And we're going to have 3 different levels of drilling. So this is the surface here, across the top. When I looked at this first, I thought it was a valley. I thought I was in Glenfarne in the middle of it, but it's not. The surface is level, and the basin is like that. So the target area is the Bundoran Shale. So they're going to drill down from the surface, and they're going to drill horizontally across. Where you see the shale thick, there's going to be 2 levels of drilling, and then that white there is the Dower sandstone. So they're going to have a layer of drills in that. So one well will drain 80 acres, and there'll be 3 wells for every 80 acres. Now that level of 500 metres has been reduced to 700 metres lately, because there was a report from Durham University that showed that you had to be at least 600 metres away from an aquifer to be protected. So this is another diagram from Encana. Now that's a pad on the top in forestry. Now this is future sort of practice. This is where they want to go with the industry in America. So that's actually going to drain 6 miles by 2.5 miles. So that's a very big pad and a very big area to be drained. But we're not going to do that in Ireland. We're going to have 1 pad every square mile. But look at the depth. That's about 2.5 kilometres down to the shale. So this is sort of how that would look. So the red line is the wells, and the blue is fractures. So you can expect fractures to go up 350 metres. 1% was up 350 metres. And what Rob said earlier, look at the gap. So what they're starting to say in America is that all their problems, we say we want to stop fracking. They're saying that the problems aren't really associated with fracking, they're associated with surface spills and well casings, and they're saying that the distance down to the fracture is important. Now this is what Richard Morman was proposing. Now at the moment, he's changing what he's proposing. He's only going in one direction rather than 2. If he could go in 2 directions, he'd reduce the impact. But for some reason, he's decided now that he only wants to go in one direction. Now, I've actually been good to him. I've brought it down to the 700 metres. But you can see that the fractures are very close to the water table on top. This is the biggest reason why we have to be worried about fracturing. Because when Jessica Ernst came here, she talked about gas migration. We're very, very close to the gas. When they fracture that, and David will talk more about that, I think there's a huge risk that gas will enter the water table. Now I'm not going to be here long. Access to land is something that I can't get people to talk about. There's no problem with access at exploration. This is an extract from the Petroleum and Other Minerals Development Act. This is the law. Now this law was developed in 1960 and it hasn't been changed. Nobody expected half of a county to be fracked in 1960. Now what governs the licensing agreement with Tamboran, they have 60 terms to their license. And one of the terms means that, well, basically, if you're going to come here and spend 150 million euros or dollars, you expect to get something in return. And the minister on application by the licensee, that's Tamboran, shall enter into an undertaking with the licensee to grant a petroleum lease in relation to the part of the licensed area which contains the discovery. So if Tamboran prove that there's a viable reserve of gas, they will be offered a lease. That's already written into the contract. What that says there is they both have to agree that it's viable. Now, under the Petroleum and Other Minerals Development Act, if you have a lease, which they will get a lease, they will get a lease based on exploration in the north. They don't have to do exploration in the south to get a lease. All they have to do is prove that there's a viable reserve. So if it's viable, and the government agrees, they will get a lease. Now, the leasee, under a petroleum lease, may enter on the land specified in the lease, and other land in such manner as may be reasonably necessary for the working of petroleum or for any other purpose incidental thereto. What that means is that if they prove that there's a viable reserve here, and the government give them a lease, they will have access to land. And Pat Rabbit doesn't have that many options to get out of that agreement that he's made. We have to prove that there's a risk to human health that they didn't know about when they signed that lease to get out. So just look at the area that could be under the control of a gas company. Like this, why would the government do that? Why would that happen? And that all comes down to revenue and energy security. Richard Morman is proposing to produce a good part of our demand over the next 10 or 15 years. And we're importing 98% of our energy. And we've no money. So we're really in danger. Because the people living in that basin, you know, who's going to look after our interests if the European and the national interest is slightly different? So we just really have to find out what's happening. That's me now, thank you.